yena bhutale swayam rupa kadam ayam dadati swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Prachadine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschachya Desatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. So first of all, I'd like to thank Archita Prabhu for giving me the opportunity to say a few words on this very special occasion, on the Disappearance Day of our beloved spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. As it happened, when Prabhupada left in 1977, my wife and my small child and myself, we were actually living here in Los Angeles. Although we were actually based in Vrindavan Dham, and we'd been living there for some years, the reason that we came was because my father-in-law was a very pious man. Even Prabhupada himself mentioned that several times. And he was prepared to pay for our round-trip tickets from Delhi, Los Angeles, Delhi. And I'd just been given a very nice service by Srila Prabhupada in 1976 to start up what's known as a mukut business, making deity outfits, deity crowns. And this is quite amazing because we don't hear too much about how Prabhupada treated his householders in Vrindavan. Because in those days, the majority of sannyasis were completely against householders living in Vrindavan. They actually said that Vrindavan is a place of austerity, only meant for renunciates. But try to tell that to the shopkeepers in Loi Bazaar. There's actually a very healthy business community in Sri Vrindavan Dham. And the situation happened where my wife and I, we were living in the Krishna Balaram guest house. I was staying with Gopal Krishna, who was the GBC at that time, and he still is today. And my wife was sharing a room with an Indian Mataji and her newly born daughter. So Prabhupada called me one time and he said, "So where are you living?" And I said, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, we're living in the guest house." He said, "Oh." He said, "I never expected my householders to live in the temple." He said, "The temple is meant for sannyasis." And I thought, my goodness, here it comes. We're going to be terminated. And then Prabhupada said, "So there is one nice property, not too far away, called Taparya House. And I want you and your family to live over there and establish a business. And he said that this property was given by a, a Bombay businessman called Ghanshyam Das Taparia, was being inhabited by Nepalese sadhus. So I went over there and just to see what the place was like, and Prabhupada actually encouraged me to go there. And I was quite surprised. There was no wall. Of course, we're living in the age of the wall. But there was no wall. It was a fake wall. And there was no there was no running water even. The water came from a well. At the end of a piece of rope there was a bucket. And so we had to get our water that way from the well. And there was no toilet. And of course in India in those days, and even today they still do that, there's certain fields that everybody goes to, especially from the villages, and they pass stool in those fields. And I just remember that my sort of first introduction to India was that one devotee said, well, if you take a long distance train journey, 6 o'clock in the morning is stool time in India, because that's when everybody does their business before going out and working in the fields. And so we had to do the same thing. We used the stool field. So it was very primitive, you can say. But Prabhupada said, don't worry, I will appoint my dear friend Vishwambar Dayal Agarwal, and he will oversee any construction work that needs to be done. And he said that you should stay over there and employ local bridge basis to make deity outfits and deity crowns. He said, I want you to go into direct competition with all the Mukatwalas in Loy Bazaar. And he said, the nice thing is that the best way to do business is to live where you actually have your business going on. And so with encouraging words from Prabhupada, of course I did report that it seemed like it was perhaps not such a safe place. So Prabhupada put my mind at ease. He said, well, what you should do is hire a chokidar. And the chokidar will carry a big stick, and he'll walk around the house, and he'll be calling out all night, Radhe, Radhe. Nothing will happen. And he said, it's very inexpensive. It'll cost about 90 rupees a month to hire such a chokidar, or night watchman. So we did that. I did hire this man, and nothing happened. Then I started advertising for work in that place. This is all done under the guidance and instruction of Srila Prabhupada. This is not my idea, this is Prabhupada's idea. Because he wanted his householders to actually set up businesses and settle down in Vrindavan. So we did that. And with Vishwambar's help, we started building the wall. And a little cottage for the chokidar. And well, we thought maybe because we got quite a bit of land along with the house, it wasn't just a house and a barrier, but there was back and front, there was quite a big garden. So we decided we'll get a cow, because Prabhupada always mentioned that when we're living in India, we should always drink cow's milk, not buffalo milk. He said if you drink the milk of a buffalo, you become a buffalo. Well, that's a different story. Yeah. He did say that though. So we went to the Govardhan market and we purchased a cow and a little calf. And we named the cow Brij Rani, and the little calf's name was Kalindi. And she was a Haryana, pure white cow. And she was giving 5 kilos of milk in the morning and 5 kilos of milk in the evening. And so you can say that we started the very sort of beginning of having a goshala. Of course now, that Goshala has grown like anything. They have over 400 cows in their Goshala. And the land has expanded as well. Anyway, so Prabhupada was very, very sick. And this was in the month of August 1977. And we were having kirtan for Prabhupada, 24-hour kirtan, using tiny little cymbals, not kartals, just like little cymbals. And we were singing very quietly also. And Prabhupada would lie in his bed in his house, in between the Krishna Balaram temple and the guest house. And so he was listening to the kirtan all the time. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, we heard his name mentioned by Pita Das, if you watch those videos. And he wanted Prabhupada to develop strength in his body. And so he decided the best thing is if he would leave Vrindavan, because there was all these different sort of crackpot people that were coming and giving strange suggestions to Srila Prabhupada that all he needed to do was eat rasgullas and he'd get back to perfect health. Prabhupada liked that suggestion because he was very fond of rasgullas, but it certainly wasn't medically the right thing he was taking. And just the day before they were supposed to leave to go on British Airways to England, they were going to fly to England, Prabhupada developed a stomachache. And I was thinking, because as I mentioned, my father-in-law had given us round-trip tickets to visit him, and I was thinking, well, I can also get orders for deity outfits from the New Dwarka temple and travel around America and go and visit all the different temples and get, business like that. So I was determined that I wasn't going to leave Vrindavan first. I was going to wait until Prabhupada left. Then after I saw him physically leave, then we would leave. In fact, I told Prabhupada about this arrangement, and he said, don't worry, after England, I'm going to visit America, and I'll spend time with you in Los Angeles. Then after that, I'm going to fly to Hawaii and try to recover my strength, because that was like the final destination was Hawaii. Of course, we made our arrangements. We left India, we came here, and then we got the news that Prabhupada had only stayed in England for a few days, and he was on his way back to India. So we were in a bit of a dilemma what to do. And of course then we started seeing letters posted on all the doors of the apartment buildings requesting that we pray to Srimati Radharani, that if she so desired, she could extend Prabhupada's life. But then, of course, that was not meant to be. And on the 14th of November, Prabhupada left. And at that time, we all went into deep mourning for Srila Prabhupada. And Rameshwar, who was kind of overall in charge of all the activities here, he organized a memorial festival. And over 1,000 devotees came to that festival. Half of them had already blooped, but they came out of respect for Srila Prabhupada. So that was quite a moving experience, you can say. I don't know if anybody else was here at that time. Anybody experienced that? Rabindranath was here. So that's the sad news that we got. But I wanted to tell a little story about how Prabhupada was always thinking big. We know that because constantly he was having this vision of expanding Krishna consciousness in amazing ways. So in London in 1972, Prabhupada was hosting Ravi Shankar, the famous sitar player, who happened to be a Bengali. And Prabhupada knew his weakness, that he liked Bengali kana. So Prabhupada had arranged all these different preparations, and I was there because I was helping serve those preparations to Prabhupada and to Ravi Shankar. Of course, he wasn't, his Ishtadev was not Krishna. His Ishtadev was Saraswati, the goddess of learning. That's where he got all his inspiration from. And it just so happened that Bhagavan came from Detroit at that time on his way to take up responsibility in France. So when Bhagavan showed up, Prabhupada said, "Oh," he said, "you're coming from that city famous for cars. Am I right?" And he said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." And he said, "So, I want you to purchase a stretch Cadillac limousine, pure white in color, with blacked out windows. And I want you to export this car to India." And he said, "In India, I will have gold letters painted on the sides, the two sides of the car, in big capital letters, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami." Then underneath he said, "You should write, Spiritual Master of the USA." So Prabhupada, his reasoning, I don't know if you heard this story, has anyone heard this before? No. I don't think it's written down anywhere either. So he said, when we drive in this big white Cadillac car with the blacked out windows, all the villagers will come running out to see, "Wow, look at the size of this car. And it's not just a big car, it's an American car. And who does it belong to?" Then they'll read the letters, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Spiritual Master of the USA. Then they'll think, "Wow, he must be a really, really important Swami. He must have so much Shakti. It's quite amazing. He's the spiritual master of the USA, the most powerful country in the world. And he's the spiritual master of all the people in America. We have to certainly go along and hear him talk. Maybe some of his magic that he has will rub off on us." So that was quite surprising. Of course, it never happened. There's many things that Prabhupada wanted to happen, never happened, because we lacked the faith, or perhaps we lacked the funds, or maybe a bit of both. So I thought I wanted to mention this important story, so you can think of this and maybe it'll resonate in your heart. This is how we think big in ISKCON. Not just think, but actually act as well. This is all by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that he gave us such an amazing opportunity to serve him. And he gave so many millions of people equal opportunity. Just like we were hearing, Prabhupada mentioned, there was one family, I don't know if you picked up on this, but the head of the family is Kiradakshai Vishnu. And he was a Gupta, a Mr. Gupta. And he was a big, you can say, representative of Gita Press. That's situated in Gorakhpur, which is on the India-Nepal border. And they print Bhagavad Gitas, but with a Hindi translation of the Sanskrit. And Prabhupada actually met the founder of this society called Hanuman Prasad Podar. I don't know if you've heard that name, but Hanuman Prasad Podar, Gita Press, they were distributing millions and millions of copies of Bhagavad Gita at 1 rupee each. 1 rupee only. So Prabhupada was very impressed with that organization. And so Kiradakshai Vishnu came along. Mr. Gupta used to come along to hear Prabhupada speak in Berry Place. This is in 1972. And he brought his wife and his 3 children with him. So there was 5 of them. And the children were young. The youngest member was about 7, and the oldest member was about 12. And Prabhupada initiated them all at one fell swoop, all at the same time. He had so much confidence that this man could do good, big things for Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada liked him so much, he agreed to install in his home Radha Krishna deities, which he did. I was there for the Pran Pratishtha, the installation ceremony. And but after he had them installed and we're sitting down taking a big feast to commemorate, because he didn't do this very often. He wouldn't allow anybody except for those who are building temples or starting temples, even to think about having deities. And usually they were Gaur-Nitai, certainly weren't Radha Krishna. But this Kirodakshaya Vishnu was living in an important part of London called Willesden. And so then he said, you should think of this altar and your little temple activity. Of course, you're going to invite your friends and the public for arti and for kirtan and for pravachan. But you should think that this is a branch of the Radha Krishna, Radha Landanishwara temple. So that means that all the money that comes your way through donations, you give to Dhananjaya. You don't keep for yourself. He didn't obey exactly to the letter that instruction, but anyway. In fact, Prabhupada wanted 10 temples built in London. He said London is such a rich city with 8 million people, it could easily provide funds for at least 10 temples in London. So that was, you can say, another way that Prabhupada was thinking how to engage the Londoners. I don't know if I told you this story, but it's about G.D. Birla, Gordon Das Birla. And he was a senior member of the Birla family. And they, of course, are living in Mumbai. And Mr. G.D. Birla met Srila Prabhupada at the Juhu temple. And he was very impressed with Srila Prabhupada, and he was very impressed with all the books that were being published by ISKCON, by the BBT press at that time. And he asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, I'm very impressed with what you're doing here. How can I help your movement? And Prabhupada said, well, you could help us in London. We want a big Vedic temple built in the heart of London, just off Oxford Street and Regent Street. And so he said, well, let me see what I can do. And he made this offer, and the Birla family were very respectful of sadhus. But when he got back to his family, and he was describing his meeting with Srila Prabhupada, they became really disturbed. They said, how you can promise this man that you're going to build a huge temple in the middle of Delhi? He said, we're busy opening dharmshalas and temples all over India. This is an impossibility. So G.D. Birla was a little bit kind of afraid of his family members. And it just so happened that Prabhupada took along a newly appointed sannyasi, American sannyasi. And so this American sannyasi accompanied Srila Prabhupada to see G.D. Birla, Gordon Das Birla. And so then, a few days after that meeting, Prabhupada appointed this sannyasi. Should I tell you his name? Is that okay? Huh? No. This is in 1972. No. 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 Pancha Dravida. Does that name does that resonate? Okay, anyway, in those days he just got that new name from Prabhupada, Pancha Dravida Swami. And so Prabhupada put him in charge of ISKCON Food Relief, which was the precursor to, so many other programs going on in the name of ISKCON. So, and he said Prabhupada was very conscious that there were many, many poor families living around the temple in Juhu, although of course Juhu itself is a very opulent place compared to some parts of Mumbai, but there still is a lot of people in the poverty line. So he said not one single family within a 10-kilometer radius of the temple should go hungry any day. He said we should provide at least khichdi for 10,000 people every single day, or for as many people that come who want it. So Panchadravida was just thinking, okay, we met this Mr. Birla, he wants to help us. Maybe you can help with the ISKCON food relief program. And so he went, without telling Prabhupada, to G.D. Birla's office. And of course, G.D. Birla welcomes sadhus of any color or creed. And he remembered him coming along with Srila Prabhupada. And he said, my dear Swami, what can I do for you? And he said, well, Prabhupada's just appointed me to make sure that all the local residents within a 10-kilometer radius are fed. So I want donations of rice and dal. And so G.D. Birla said, how many bags of rice and dal would you like? Because I think they came in quite large sacks, maybe 50 kilos or more. And he said, if you give me 50 sacks of rice and 50 sacks of dal, that would be a big help. He said, of course, I'll do that immediately. So when Prabhupada heard this foolish, stupid person going back to Mr. G.D. Birla, he knew that was it. And the reason I knew all this was because Prabhupada was sending me telexes, and this is before, internet. But a telex was quite instantaneous. It was like a typewriter, and you had one typewriter where you're typing out something, and the other typewriter somewhere else in the world and receives that message and starts printing it out. So the first message I got was, look for a big temple up to £1 million in value, or property. That happened like as soon as that meeting had finished with G.D. Birla with Prabhupada. But then about a week later, I got another telex, stop everything. And why was everything stopped? Because, as I mentioned, G.D. Birla was in trouble with his family members because he had promised a sadhu, and the Birlas had to keep their promise, otherwise they would be cursed. So he was off the hook. So instead of donating £1 million, he donated bags of rice and dal. So you can understand the sort of incompetence that Prabhupada had to work with. We were so incompetent, and Prabhupada mentioned it several times in that lecture. They were basically fools and rascals, all of us. We kind of fit into that category very easily. We slip into it. Because, we are naive. But this is not the time to be naive. This is the time to act. This is the time to actually use our good intelligence, how we can preserve Srila Prabhupada's name and reputation. Of course, we know that Prabhupada is living in sound, he's living in his words, and he'll go on continue to helping this world for the next 10,000 years. There's no question in my mind about that. I have total faith. Because Prabhupada said, this is in Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram Mandir, he said, even if you all leave, he said, if all the GBC leave, all the temple presidents leave, all the BPT trustees leave, all the, Sankirtan devotees, he said the damage has been done. The books are out there, and they will do their damage. And their damage will be spreading Krishna consciousness all over the face of this earth. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sorry for going over time. Hare Krishna. Thank you.